Welcome everyone to this online educational presentation on the subject of equine esophageal obstruction, otherwise known as equine choke. This presentation is geared for horse owners, so let's get started. The presentation is brought to you by veterinary technicians Michelle Vaden from Georgia and Colleen Davis from Texas. The presentation will cover the areas of equine digestive system, defining what choke is, what part of the digestive system gets disrupted to cause a choke event, and what are the clinical signs. My colleague Colleen Davis will cover the areas of diagnostics used for a choke event, treatments available, prognosis for the horse, and prevention that can be applied so that you will hopefully never encounter a choke event. What is choke? Choke is when there is an obstruction in the esophagus, usually by feed material when it gets stuck. In comparison to humans, choke in humans is caused by something lodged in the trachea, which then blocks the airway. In horses, choke is caused by something lodged in the esophagus, but a choking horse can breathe, but a choking horse cannot swallow. So the good news is that because this is not an airway or trachea obstruction, but can be, and we will discuss that in a bit, a choke is not usually considered life-threatening. However, it is a condition that must be corrected so that complications do not become a serious threat to the horse's health. So here in this slide, we have the equine digestive system. The horse's normal digestive tract is as follows. The food, grain, hay, treats, etc. enters the mouth, gets chewed up, which is now called digesta, and then will continue through the digestive system as a digestive bolus. That is a small rounded mass of chewed up food. The bolus gets pushed into the back of the pharynx. It now gets moistened with saliva. Then the horse swallows it and the bolus enters the esophagus. The esophagus of the horse is a 4-foot muscular structure that terminates with a sphincter, which seals off the bottom of the esophagus to the stomach. The digestive bolus will continue down this 4-foot tube on its way to the stomach, where further breakdown occurs in the stomach. Then it is continued to go along the small intestine. Absorption occurs in the small intestine, then continuing down to the large intestines to the colon. Then the waste is excreted through in the feces. The area where the horse is more likely to have a choke event is at the beginning of the esophagus, which is like right here. And the esophagus entrance to the chest cavity and the esophagus entrance to the stomach. All these areas have a narrow area that are often the sites of obstruction or choke events, and we'll see that in the next slide. So in this slide, you can see representation of the actual route for the digestive bulla to go. Enters the mouth, goes chewed up in here, becomes a digestive bolus, continues on, mixes with saliva over here, gets swallowed, and goes down into the 4-foot esophagus and down to the stomach. So here's another slide indicating the example of a digestive bolus traveling path. In this slide, you will see the first area in which a choke can occur in the digestive route, indicated by the green color. From the mouth, passes by the soft palate, and the digestive is passed down the food tube, down the esophagus. You can see in this image that there are 2 valves blocking the digestive for entering the soft palate and the nose. Here's the 2 valves right here. We don't want that to go through there. So, a valve blocking off the windpipe or trachea and does not allow any digestives to enter the pulmonary system. If the digestive enter the pulmonary system, that could be a detrimental and life-threatening event, which will now become aspiration pneumonia, which is a complication caused by pulmonary aspiration, and that is when you inhale food into the lungs, thus causing an infection or obstruction, causing a pulmonary obstruction, which is a life-threatening situation. And that's another subject. So here is another slide indicating the digestive bolus getting stuck right in the beginning of the esophagus. So here's the pharynx. The digestive bolus will go through the mouth, get chewed up, will enter right here, mixed with saliva, pass through the pharynx, and here is the beginning of the esophagus, and that's where it will get stuck. That's a very common area where it gets stuck. And in this slide, you can see representation of the whole esophagus. Well, it's actually a tube that's entering the horse and going into the stomach, but you could actually see the route and how long it would be. Okay. So what are the clinical signs associated with equine choke events? Are coughing, yawning, arching neck, drooling, and difficulty breathing. So here is an example of a video of a horse having a choke episode that I pulled off of YouTube. And the horse's name is Sparky. And on May 3rd, 2012, Sparky apparently ate his grain too quickly and it jammed in his throat. It cleared on its own while they were waiting for the vet to arrive. He was totally fine, nothing happened, but I wanted you to see this video. It's a good video presentation. So you can see in the video, let me start the video. And you can see in the video the repeated times that Sparky swallows. He's going to stretch out his neck a few times, does the flame-in response right there. And that's when an animal inhales with the mouth open and the upper lip is curled up. And you can also see that Sparky is getting agitated in his body movements. And see him swallowing. Let me play that one more time. So he's stretching his neck out, and he's going to have repeated swallowing events right there. Shaking his head, something's getting stuck, stretching out, and it's getting stuck right over here. You can see him swallowing, repeated swallowing events, agitated, and eventually he will become comfortable. So, and for Sparky, it was a good thing. He naturally passed it on his own. So this is the end of my presentation. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Colleen Davis. She is a licensed veterinary technician from Texas, and she will now continue the presentation.